he could not stop himself from, just adding another girl to the rotation. And so when I thought about that, I was like,
Where have we seen this before?
Similar movie.
Some guy writing love letters to bitches and then wondering why they're attached to him.
Love letters.
But
Pornography. That if a friend of mine tells a girl that I'm into her, then that just, to me, that he just ruined it for me.
The big hormone enneagram.
I'm John Alexandra, 415, sexual self-pres, 458 trifix.
I'm David Gray, self-pres sexual, 9 with 1 wing, 974 trifix.
What up? It's Emeka. I'm an 8-wing 7, sexual self-pres with 854 fixes.
Hi, I'm Alexandra. I'm a social self-preservation 9-wing 1, 963 trifix.
Like and subscribe on Apple and Spotify, and leave us a review. If you want to support the show with a donation, you can find us on Venmo at Big Hormone and paypal.me/Big Hormone. I hung out with OD, and man, I'm hearing myself. David, is that you? Is that the same thing that happened last time?
Oh, wait. Yeah. Try it.
Hello? 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 That's better. Yeah. You have a headset on, right?
I've got these in.
We can't see you at all.
Yeah, and you sound far. You sound far away.
David's just fully in the void.
In the dark.
You sound far away.
Right there.
David, do you exist?
Why don't you join us?
Dimensions.
Why don't you join us? How about that?
That's a starter. Just join us.
Yeah, can you check your lights on the sound just to make sure you're at 6?
Check. That's about
like talk for a while. You don't want it to just. I don't want it just
check,
spiking.
Check. Boodle, 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 boodle.
Yeah, you sound far away, David.
You sound far away.
It's like it sounds like your mic is like not plugged in or something.
Or yeah, can you tap it just to make sure it's coming from your mic?
Okay. You hear that?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I hear that.
Check.
It's
Hold on.
Curious case.
Where is the mic?
I see him a little bit more now.
We should just leave this in the episode. Just
is it above your head?
It's right. It's very. I mean, it's this far.
Okay, now it sounds closer.
Yeah, I turned it up.
So where are your lights at?
Hold on. Check. Blah 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 blah. Check. That's good right there, I think. No,
okay.
Still not good. Hold on. Blobbity 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 blah. You guys need to see my beautiful face more. Let me work on the lights here.
we do.
What's the point of having video on if you're in the dark?
So he could be totally naked without us knowing.
Yeah, right.
Probably is. No, that would be uncomfortable. He's got to be in his comfy pants with just the right temperature. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Cozy
he's not
pants.
Alexandra Cosi.
Nobody's Alexander Cosi. The longer I know David, the more I realize I don't know anything about him.
That's the whole point.
What is that? I just learned he had a house, What? I had a dream about being at his place once, like a long time ago. And because it was an apartment in the dream, I assumed he had an apartment this whole time.
No, he's got a house. I knew that.
Oh, there he is.
Okay, so I can hear the AC a lot more now, but I think the sound filter will catch it. It's not a big deal.
That are those filters in Zoom?
Yeah. No, it'll be fine. It'll be all right. Yeah, we updated. We recorded a class about it just as we're, I guess, learning more. I'd hung out with OD a couple weeks ago, and we spent a couple hours talking about the zones, and he was really jazzed by it, and he was really seeing it in himself. And so when we got to the sexual, I initially thought that he'd be like, zone 2-1. And we talked about it more, and he was like, no, I think I'm really, what I was really addicted to was just knowing that I could get them. And it sort of connected a lot of dots, because then I was remembering all these situations where he would end up inviting girls to the same event, like inadvertently. Like he had a thing, like he had a thing that he would do.
Weird.
Weird.
where
Why would anyone do that?
he would, talk to girls and he'd invite them to the show, and he would just forget that they were coming to the same event. And there was one situation in particular where I had to talk to one of these girls to keep her from going to the back rooms where there was two other girls, and he had to walk one of them out. I was running interference.
God.
And there's just so many
that's
fucking
a friend right there.
there's just so many fucking stories of he could not stop himself from, just adding another girl to the rotation. And at the peak, he had like 5 to 6 girls that were for years in these non-monogamous situations that he was very upfront with. Like he was like, I'm not looking for a relationship, but if that conversation would happen every 3 months. And so he was telling me that he was addicted to just seeing he could get them and just like talking through the relationship. And so for a while I was like, what the fuck is he doing? Because I couldn't understand, like, why is this working? And so I didn't understand it until because he went on a couple dates with the sexual one. They didn't do anything, but he was telling me he wasn't really interested in her. But then when her and I hooked up and she was telling me what her experience was, it was completely different. That's when I realized what he was doing. Because he was so charming, and she said that I felt so confident because he was telling me things like, oh, I feel so intimidated by you. You're so beautiful. Like, you're just such an incredible woman, and blah, yada, yada, yada. And then she was like, oh, wow, he really likes me. And, he's going to be really excited to see me again. And then she would text him, and he would not text back for like a week and a half. Like but then he'd come back and they'd go on another date. And so he had this push-pull where he's such a charming, likable. Everybody likes OD, right? But then he's, cold on the back end, but like it's kind of like, that's his game. And so when I thought about that, I was like, Where
have we seen this before?
Similar movie.
Some guy writing love letters to bitches and then wondering why they're attached to him.
Love letters.
But
Pornography. That's my game.
Whatever.
The thing that struck me was that I just remember all the girls at one event thing, and I'm like, what is that? What is that specific scenario where it's like, this is a win if they're all here, and on the back end, it's like, it's this sort of delaying this. There's a drama from the potential car crash of these love interests, dealing with each other, and I'm like, what is that? Because I've had to deal with that with these two guys in two different ways.
Wow.
Of just like multiple girls are in the same room that want you.
It's a hard David life.
It's interesting because it's kind of like how we've talked about people that are sexual last, and where it sort of the sexual instinct erupts, in a destructive way. This is kind of the same.
Yeah.
And it is kind of sexual blind.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I think in the way you said it, the thing that, and OD sort of had this too, is that it's like, you want to have the option. And then later on, I mean, he still has sexual in the stacking of, I'll find out later if I'm into it. It's like part of the sexual instinct of wanting to make sure that the resource is there when you need it. And so that's sort of like that 2-3 combination of, I want to know that I can cook it, but I also want to know that I can keep it around for when I actually want to get into it.
There might be a way that it's worse with sexual middle.
Maybe. Right.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Which would be both of you, right?
Both. Yeah.
Yeah. The like sort of inherent flippancy of the energy, Yeah. That's it's been really interesting. Like, let's see. I've been going on my own sort of testing rabbit hole with the zones, just trying to figure out, like, for example, yesterday I was trying to figure out a lot about, like, what really is zone 2 in self-pres? Like, what does that actually mean versus what's actually just social and you know, these kind of things? And then, you know, I'm on this process of unpacking my history and experiences and what is sexual zone 1 missing that being sexual 3-2 versus like what's just my history. And so I was like wondering like, well, all right, so I was thinking, Emeka, with you being 3-1, you're very much like it's there, it's not.
Yeah.
And Alexandra recognized that the zone 2 has a rough correlation with attachment.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they talked about it.
Yeah, it's and zone 1 is frustration and 3 is rejection.
Yeah.
And so there's this thing of like making it work in the 2 zone somehow.
Right.
And you know, you don't really seem to have like you're sort of like it's there, it's not.
Yeah. Well,
my phrasing was not necessarily making it work or not. Like there is like a flexibility, I think, probably with 2, but it was more like winning the object, like winning the thing. Right. So in the sexual competition, it would be like competing to win the favor of whatever object you're trying to catch.
And there are other people sort of, you know, figuratively in the space in a certain way that you're competing
yes,
with.
the
Whereas
realm.
with Emeka, there's the feeling there's not that sense relative to sexual and partners, it seems like to me.
Yeah, like Emeka, tell me if I'm wrong, but it seems like you're like, all right, the chemistry is there or not. I'm not gonna like fucking like debase myself in trying to like earn it. Like it's got it. Like I'm the thing or win it or not. I'm the thing here.
Oh yeah, no. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
You know what? That's interesting that you say that because I've always felt like kind of like you're doing it wrong when that sort of gamesmanship is part of because that's part of the sexual game is people sort of, and we talked about this with David, is like, I don't want them to know how interested I am. And if this game that sometimes people play of, I don't know, I guess some form of sexual gamesmanship in these dating games, that I'm just like, if you're into it, then let's fucking do it. Like, what are you trying to play hard to get for, or even just pretending that you're not as into me as you are, and I can tell that you are, and that whole thing to me is like, I don't know what you're doing. Like I know what you're doing, but I also don't understand what you're doing. If you're just like actually really into me, then let's just fucking do it.
And what I was saying on our recent DAA video, the one that hasn't come out yet, is that if a friend of mine tells a girl that I'm into her, then that just, to me, that he just ruined it for me. That just, it's done. Like I'm not going to pay any attention to her. That's over.
Like, I want her to know. Like, I'm not playing. I'm not this whole game of, I don't know, like, I don't need her to know how into, like, this is exactly what I'm into, this, and this, and that. And if you're into me, then let's fucking go. But when people play those kind of games, I'm just like, well, I guess you don't feel the same way, or you're not feeling the same kind of, like, thing that I'm feeling. But no, I do kind of check out when those kinds of games become part of the thing, because I'm just like, how do you have room to play? I don't have room to play those kind of games.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that everybody, you know, that has the zone 2 is necessarily going to do that same thing that I just described, but that's one of the ways it manifests for me.
Yeah, that seems like also middle zone 2. Middle, sexual middle in the zone 2, where there is a flippant kind of quality.
Yeah. That's right.
Again, I'm still getting the hang of these things and trying to feel what fits with me or not. But
yeah, you get your okay.
Mike? All right, yeah. We're trying to. I knew when that quality of energy from Emeka came in, it was a sound thing. His Virgo stuff. Like, actually, can you?
Actually, everything's really bad.
Yeah, like you know, trying to see where I've been trying to uncover. Like I said, what is my history of feeling like unattractive versus what's like a bias of these zone 1 blindness, and if zone 1 blindness has like made me not aware of when women feel like a spark for me or something, or not trusting when that I will have a spark. You know, it's like, no, I gotta like make this work.
Yeah,
you know, it's kind of my bias. Is like I gotta win them, and I gotta be renewing the juiciness, but like almost like to a point where I get so fixated on making sure I'm still wanted that I lose a sense of both that I could have a spark with somebody else, and you know, it doesn't have to be here, but also that anybody would have a spark for me. You know, like
right.
Like it's that's I'm trying to still piece that out, but that feels like something in the one not having zone one.
One thing that I will say that I notice about 3-2 specifically is I think the bias of sort of conventional, and I say conventional in terms of like the conventional sexual attractiveness of like height and muscles and how great at sex you are, or wealth, or for women like how big your ass is, tits and hair, and that's sort of like the meats, you know. I think is a way that 3-2 shows up, and like, you know, sort of like the self-press social kind of like, look at how hot my body is. But I thought about you and sort of like not feeling that you're attractive coming from that perspective a little bit. Like you said some things about like looking at your explore page and like, you know, and the dudes that are jacked and all this kind of stuff, and that making you feel bad and stuff like that. And that never really, I mean, of course I do see that, but it does feel like with one, there is more trust in this kind of like unexpected, this random thing, like your laugh turns somebody on. You know, like this random thing, like the way you move your mouth turns someone on, like stuff that has nothing to do with like your physical traits. I mean, because
like the non-visual stuff that would be like the pseudo social blindness of that thing too, that it doesn't actually have to do with like the way that I can, how do I say this? The way that you look.
Yeah. It's like that has nothing to do with my height or how much money I have. It's just like these really idiosyncratic things that someone could get jazzed by, and it's like, I don't know, it like you just realize that and everyone has a different thing. It's never the same. Like the girls they're never into the same thing.
It's really interesting because being a 4, I'm like, I'm going to be mean no matter what. But then when I think about what I think you were speaking to when you're referring to zone 1 sexual, I feel there are things I have to be and I am, but I also feel like they're like ugly and bad, you know, in myself. Like I'm like, I'm gonna smile the way I smile, but like I think my smile is horrible, and if there's image stuff in there too. I'm it's all swirling, and I'm still figuring this out. But there's like a lack of trust in what would be my zone 1, and I think that I suspect, you know, like we always refer to the first meetup zone that we had when I met Alexandra as like, I think that was me going to zone 1. And just blowing my lid.
Oh, yeah.
And being sense. Like ridiculous and a ham in a way I'm not normally. And just not even caring because I was just like activated.
Right.
And I like, that is like a moment where I'm like, wow, I just like, all that like, I'm not attractive. It just like went out the window.
Totally.
My head exploded.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, and I was into it. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense with some of like your 4 or 5 stuff. It's just like, I'm going to be me no matter what. But then also seeing sexuality as actually having a standard that you don't feel like you're meeting.
Yeah.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah, no,
that's
like,
kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's really, and yeah, I've also been just reflecting on the, you know, what that means for me not having or being last in zone 2, and there is like there is an allergy that I have to sort of the, I don't know, the seduction gamesmanship of it, that I'm just like I'm so far into the, you should be, you know, frothing over these random things that I can't even predict. Like I'm frothing, like who cares? Let's get it on, you know. And that sense of like, how do you even have space to play these games? Because like I need this, you know, that feeling. If you don't have that, this is an option for you. Like you haven't been infected enough that you have enough space to do this thing of playing hard to get or whatever the fuck you're doing. So that's what's going on in my head. But of course, people could be frothing and still playing games. You know, that's just
For sure.
Yeah.
You know,
It's interesting because I'm not just saying this to like flatter or something, but like I do think my relationship with Alexandra brings out my zone 1 more.
Yeah, 100%.
Because I feel like I feel my specificity valued a lot more, and I feel like my specificity is juicier. And let's see, but there's something else there that is, as you're saying all that, there's something coming into focus where in the past there was much more of like I'm fulfilling a meat role to keep a partner.
Yeah.
And I still can fall into that. I get fixated there, but that's not as what I'm limited to.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, this whole thing does get at like triggers and shadow and stuff. I mean, it really is revelatory there.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
It always feels like this is all the courtship stuff that I have to do just to get to the thing, which is let's get it on. You know, like in that
Sex
sense
dungeon.
of to get there. And so like I have to like I need to show that I care about you and the relationship and long term get you know all these things that you need to do. And so I'm always appreciative whenever, because let's say like each of these zone stems is a part of the process of relationship. So there's a part of the relationship where you are in the sex den and that's all you want to do.
Right.
It feels like everything that's not that is the price that I have to pay to get there.
Interesting.
And so like when usually the relationship gets out of the sex den, I'm starving. Like I feel like starved. And so I'm always grateful for relationships where a sense of that sex den thing is sort of there the whole time.
And this is
that's rare.
And this is ringing similar to how Alexandra is with social.
Yeah.
Some of that, you know, like
Text
I'm not getting that sense of.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. But it's not a den because I don't have 3, so it's just more like.
But it's that thing of really tracking, like, is this
are you into me or not? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Are we friends or what?
Well, and just are you into the person you're talking to right now?
Yes.
Or are you
right now?
Yeah.
Right now.
We're literally right now. That's how it is, though, because it's not a like, do we like each other? Okay, cool. Now you can go on your shelf and I can go on my shelf and it's good and we'll talk. I'll be like, no, this conversation's boring. I can't be here.
And that gets at the zone 1 relating to frustration. Like, am I frustrated? Is this not working right now?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, because let's see. I don't want to derail this, but so I've been trying to figure out. I have in my book these autonomy conflicts, right? And they're the conflict between the way in which all of the instincts are regulated by resources that exist outside of themselves. So like human beings need to constantly be engaged like in the world in some fashion because all your self-pres needs, you need to do something to get them met. Sexual needs, same thing. Social needs, same thing. And so there are conflicts between I'm dependent on things outside of myself versus my individuality or singularity. So for example, in sexual, it's like I need the attention and engagement of a sexual partner.
Yeah.
At the same time, I have to build myself as a sexual being. I have to know my own sexual energy. I have to be attractive. I have to know how to talk to a woman, all these different things. Social, it's like I have friends, I need friends, but I also need to be like an interesting enough person to be friendship worthy and keeping my friends interested in me and wanting to be my friend, caring about me. Self-pres, I need to take care of myself, but I also need to have the skills so I can take care of myself. And so there's like a polarity there and then blah, 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 blah. And it seems like I'm wondering if these zones are almost like ways of renewing or tending to that polarity in a certain way. Like, you know, Alexandra in the sexual instinct course we just did, she actually came up with based on my kind of autonomy conflict, came up with like a sexual cycle of just like this cycle of coming together and separating and how that, for example, can be really threatening to someone, especially who's sexual blind, because it's like the separation feels threatening.
Right.
So anyway, it's like this coming together, and I wonder if the zones follow that cycle. And I know I'm throwing a lot out there, but also, like, yeah, I'll shut the fuck up there, but I have more to say.
Well, I mean, that cycle going from 1 to 2 to 3, to me, that's a universal cycle of everything, right?
Yeah.
There's the first spark at 1, there's going out and getting the
law of
desire, right, at 2, and then 3 is consummating, and having, right? And that's where that first spark eventually grounds out, right? And so then you got to go back.
It's the octave, yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me, I'm of course way more complex than this, but like sort of like a love language, you could say, for, let's say for sexual, where it's like, in order to feel like the relationship is substantial or compelling, this is what I need from my partner. And so if you have conflicting zone stems, for example, in sexual, that could be an issue where if you're saying this thing and the other person's just reinterpreting it in another zone, like, then it's like, I'm not getting my needs met. I don't feel like anything's happening here. So yeah, that's something I've been thinking about.
Also,
I've been. Well, it's just really fast. Well, I've been.
Please be brief.
Shut up, dude. Well, I've been conceptualizing this because people already in conversation, people are saying like, okay, zone 1 is sexual, and if you don't have zone 1 in your sexual instinct, then you're just not a sexual type or whatever. Already wrong.
Yeah.
So I've been trying to like, okay, what is the thing? And it feels like between each instinct, this is like the way that you experience chemistry, or the way that you experience friendship, or the way that you experience like self-regulation in self-pres or whatever.
Right.
Anyway, brief, done.
Well,
Next.
Alexander and I being both 3-2 sexual, I think, like, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think something that we've been learning just organically is that we get stuck in that 3-2 space of, am I exciting meat for you? And we've been learning to go to zone 1 for each other and renew. So like we recently had like it was a whole thing, mushroom trip and whatever, that was like this big renewal moment. And
interesting,
because we were like, something is like stuck in some way.
Yeah.
And we
That's
had like
really
a big like kind of like important, just like heavy conversation thing on it, like while mushrooms, and it like cleared stuff, and it's just been
revolution
since.
Around the cycle.
Yeah. No, that's I'm glad that you said that, because I sometimes wonder, like, okay, what is, even someone who is sexual first, you get into a routine with your partner and they get stagnant, and so sometimes just being able to hear you say that lets me put a finger on, like, what am I asking for when I say let's do this thing,
right?
Because I'm not sure what I'm asking for,
right?
But I think even as a sexual type, that maybe what I'm sensing is I'm not maybe because I'm more in that zone of like, I'm not getting it, and so like there needs to be some little mini explosion on something to break it up,
right?
Because I think
some new needs to be introduced.
Yeah, something like that.
Something Kaisa said that stuck with me a lot was, she described her relationship to her, because she's a sexual type, a sexual dominant with 3-1 as well. Is she talked about this thing of needing to get high off of her partner, but that of course, eventually, as with drugs, you develop a tolerance to it, and then the hit doesn't hit as hard as it needs to.
Yes.
And so you have to find a way to distance yourself, to separate from it, to resensitize yourself to that. Because the thing with 3 in sexual is like, that I know that it's you that I want. You're the thing I've secured. You're the one I want the hit from. And so how do we keep the thing within the container like hitting?
Yeah.
That's good.
It's interesting. 3-1 is, correlating it with SPSX. So it's like SPSX is the worst drug addict, right? And so it's got that quality of that thing where you get a tolerance, and then you need a stronger hit.
Yeah, and it helps me understand the allergy sometimes I have to the because the assumptions of relationships of just we need to get really close to each other and we need to align our lives and live together and all these things to sort of like eliminate the mystery where it's like I'm getting too much of an uncharged exposure to you that is blunting the sense, like you're just too familiar and you're too close, that I'm not, eventually it's going to kill the high on some level. And so I have seen that the best relationships that I've had, or the ones that I thought that felt the best to me, always had some inherent distance built in, even if it was just a little, even if it just meant that she was busy on doing her thing. Like it wasn't, she had enough of her own thing that we weren't on top of each other, so that the times that we did spend together were charged. It was like, I really want to see you. I really need, this, versus, oh, you're always there. So that's one thing I've realized too.
It'll be interesting to like map what each zone's strengths and liabilities are, like the cycle that wants to be completed, and then the like calcification of each point of the cycle. Because and then with each like zone or each stem, like what zone blind spot that means for each stem, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And then to a point you're making earlier, Emeka, I was in a chat, Alexandra, in a chat with somebody who I won't name, but she is SPSO, and her sexual is 3-1 zones. So I was just interrogating a bunch of people because I was trying to get answers and whatever impressions, and I was like, oh, with that kind of take it or leave it kind of quality, it's there, it's not there, but being sexual blind, that would be really difficult to put that signal out there that this is the dungeon I want.
Right.
So I thought that like even the order of these stems and zones or whatever in the stacking is like its own universe to consider too. It's like, I mean, that sucks. That's like, that's just like, that feels like it'd be really hard to get the specific note that you want if you're the self-pres social zones in a sexual blind stacking, right?
Right. No,
Super-sexual, you mean?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I was going to say that seems to be the value of 2, right? It's the display part. It's the advertising. It's the like, hey, this is it. You know what I mean? We'll see.
Listen, I gotta get going after teaching and then hanging. I have my social.
Yeah.
Dead.
Yeah.
Oh, it was nice hanging out though.
Yeah, it was good hanging.
Talk to you guys later.
Talk to you soon.
All right, love you guys.
Love you guys.
Love you too.
Bye.
Bye.